This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we have Melinda with us, joining us from Brooklyn and working with Mastercard. It's all yours, Melinda.
Awesome. Hello. Excited to be chatting with you all, especially after a long conference. I know that it's sometimes difficult to stop and sit down and listen to someone talk for half an hour, but I really appreciate everyone joining. I want to talk to you a little bit about the content design and strategy practice at Mastercard. I am the head of that practice. I started at Mastercard about 4 years ago. I was hired when I was massively pregnant. So I consider that a real testament to Mastercard and their commitment to families. They said, we'll wait for you. We really need somebody to help us with our content and to create some sort of strategic approach to the way that we do things. We need some process. So they waited for me, and I joined them in January of 2017. And since then, I've been able to build my team. There are 5 of us now, which is very exciting. And there are also a few other content SMEs now across the organization. So we're really building our muscle there around content design and strategy. I know there are some folks from eBay on the call, which is kind of interesting. My boss actually came from PayPal when PayPal was a part of eBay. So she has a lot of stories from her time there. And she was the one actually who said, I think we need someone to come and help us with our content. She was really invested in that. And does anybody here have a content strategist, content designer on your team? You can put it in the chat if you do, or if you don't. Just interested to understand if people have that capability. We can cover that a little later, but I want to tell you a little bit about how we approach it. So our whole focus is this one singular objective, and we can share this very openly with everyone that we work with at Mastercard and with our external partners. It's really for us about making sure that the right people that we're targeting for our products and services get the right information at the right time when they need it in a contextual fashion. And we feel that that approach drives preference for us, for our services, for our products, and for Mastercard as a whole. So there's really a lot of value in placing strategic influence behind content, really stopping to think about what we say, where we say it, why we say it, and making sure that we are parceling out that information in a way that makes sense to people and that brings them into the experience and makes them feel supported. And part of that is, sort of these 3 key elements that we see as making up what good content design is and how we drive great customer experiences through our approach to content. And that is, first of all, storytelling. Are we telling a story that people want to hear, even if it's a transaction that people are trying to make online? Are we making sure that they understand that that is a secure transaction, that they will feel supported, that their information will be protected, that we're here for them if they have an issue, that there's a place for them to go if they get hung up? All of those things are part of the story that we're trying to tell about our products and services. So we need to make sure that we're telling that story in a compelling way, in a consistent way. And then all of us who are charged with communications on behalf of that product or service are on the same page with the story that we're trying to tell. The second piece of that is clear and consistent language, making sure we're all using the same terminology to talk about our products and services, that all of the features are described in a similar fashion, that we all are aligned in how we articulate the different interactions within a product or service. And we do a lot of documentation on our end and a lot of sharing with our external partners to make sure that everybody understands that there is a strategy. We have an approach, we have a glossary, and everyone needs to be taken through that so that they understand and so that we're all saying the same things in the same way as to not create any unnecessary confusion. And the third piece is, and I think anybody who is charged with customer experience, user experience knows, a laser focus on customer needs. And that means constantly asking, where are we not meeting your needs? Where are not just the pain points, but the places that we haven't identified an opportunity to serve you better? And that means being close to our customers, listening to them, listening to feedback, A/B testing, and continually working to optimize our products and services. So not just shipping and being done, but shipping and then saying, how can we make it better? Where can we move the numbers up a little bit? How can we move the needle? Constantly and continuously focusing on how to make things better for our customers. So who are our partners? And these are just our internal partners. We have a ton of external partners as well. So any one of these groups who are contracting with an external partner, we're going to be a part of that relationship. But we work with marketing. We work with our product managers and our product owners. We work with our support teams, customer service. We're talking to developers, obviously, every day. We work with our product designers or UX designers. We work a lot with legal, sometimes more than we would like, but I think having a really solid, good relationship with your legal team is worth the investment of the time and effort. It's definitely paid off for us. And we certainly work a lot with sales. And how do we kind of bring all of these groups together? Well, we have two kind of common goals. We obviously have this larger singular objective of making sure people get the right information at the right time. But when we work with our product partners or our developer partners, anybody that we're working with on the actual experiences that we're providing from a content perspective, it's about making sure that people can find the information that they need quickly, and that the experiences that surround that discoverability, that information finding, are easy to follow. They're easy to understand. You know what's happening and what's required of you. And when applicable, you can enjoy that experience. And sometimes enjoyment means just being able to pay quickly and securely and move on with your day. Sometimes it means not even noticing the experience at all. That's the most enjoyable thing. In a lot of instances, particularly around financial and informational transactions. So we have 3 team initiatives, and this is how we structure our own internal OKRs for the year. Making sure that we provide a lot of thought leadership. Content design is still a pretty new discipline. I think we're about where UX was 5 years ago, and I think that's kind of a generous estimate. So we're really focused on thought leadership internally, making sure that people understand who we are and what we do and how they can engage with us, that people have resources if we're not able to scale enough to meet their needs or meet with them on a consultative basis. There are only 5 of us, and Mastercard is a company of 11,000, so we're never going to be everywhere at once. So some of that is providing documentation, providing guidance, providing resources, places for people to go, but also providing experiences. People need opportunities to learn about who we are and what we do. So we've arranged for trainings around accessibility and plain language in particular. That seems to be something that a lot of folks have interest in, as well as readability, scannability, how to write a good email, anything that would apply to the organization as a whole around strategic approaches to content. We try to leverage that as a way to educate others around the work that we do. And second, strategy and systems, making sure that we're helping others to articulate their strategy in the best way and interrogate that strategy as a part of that process, and also helping to make sure that we're providing these really robust strategic systems around messaging and terminology for our partners so that it's kind of plug and play for them. We provide a lot of language that they can just pick up and use. And even for someone who's beginning a new product or service who doesn't have a dedicated content designer, we do have a lot of language that we know has been through the ringer. Legal has approved it. It's been in market. It's tested well with our customers or our customers' customers. So we know that it's something that is kind of a gimme. And that way it saves a lot of time for literally everyone involved, because we don't have a product owner or a designer coming to us and saying, hey, can you look at this experience? We can say, hey, have you taken a look at our guidelines against what you've already done? If you do that, I think we'll be halfway there before we have a chance to take a look at it. And it really saves everybody a lot of time. So working on the strategy and making sure that we're articulating the strategy and documenting that strategy in a way that makes it accessible to everyone who needs to use it. And finally, probably most importantly, is this content creation, like the day-to-day hamster wheel of making sure that the sausage is being made, right? And making sure that we've got the right ingredients inside that sausage and that it's consistent, that it tastes the same every time. This is a gross metaphor, and I'm sorry for any vegetarians. But I think it really makes things go, right? It's making sure that we are delivering our content in a way that is efficient and streamlined, that we're not doing things manually, finding ways to deliver content, finding ways to automate some of our processes. This is a big part of content creation and the kind of everyday work that we do. And then also, I think one of the challenges with content design, and I think with design anywhere, is that, you know, if you're not seen as an integral part of the life cycle, depending on the maturity of your company with regard to design, you're often brought in at the end and asked to kind of put some lipstick on this pig. And we don't like to do that. We like our pig to be sausage, apparently. But we do like to be an integral part of that design cycle from the beginning to the end. And you can define a design cycle in a million different ways. I recently did an internal project where we tried to document as many design cycles as we could find. This is the one that we tend to use on our team, and this is how we start to articulate some of the value that we can provide along the way. We definitely do a lot of work with research, providing interview scripts, providing stimuli, designing A/B testing, research plans, things like that. As I mentioned, we have a lot of input with product strategy and helping to articulate that strategy and make it more robust for folks to use it. Feature articulation, doing what we call kind of mapping of those features and understanding how they relate to one another and how we articulate those connections. Product content, so anything that is in the product or around the product, emails, SMSs, as well as actual screens. Content ops, which is the delivery piece, and also the translation and localization side of things. Marketing content, we often will provide some oversight with that to make sure that it is as consistent as it can be, or sometimes we will write it ourselves. What's not here too is not just support content for customer service, we do some scripts for that and FAQs, but also developer content for those who are trying to integrate with our APIs. And finally, sales narratives, which again, we can influence from a consistency of terminology and storytelling perspective. And this is kind of the eye chart of all of the many tiny things that I've sort of voiced over quickly. And the point of this slide is not to read it, because please don't, because it's not that interesting, but that we just do a lot of stuff. This isn't even all the stuff that we do, but we have a lot of value to provide. So we like to show this to folks to make sure that they can see the depth and breadth of our value. And that's it in a nutshell. We also, my team in particular, is very pet friendly and we enjoy cats.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Melinda. Really appreciate it. So a lot of good things here. Perhaps I can kick off the Q&A by asking what you meant with content design being where UX was 4 years ago. Can you perhaps expand a little bit on that comparison?
Sure. I mean, I think that my husband is a UX designer, so full disclosure, I think we nerd about user experience, customer experience, product design more than is healthy. And we talk a lot about the fact that there are less roles for content design than there are for UX design. It's less understood. People don't know so much what it is. I have a slide that I used to use in all of my presentations. It said content design is not copywriting, the same way that UI is not UX. So we're kind of there. We're having to explain that we're not the copy people, although we can do that. That is a small part of our skill set. And if you're asking us to, hey, fill in this box on this screen, you know, make some copy happen, it's really not a good use of our skill set, because what we do is content design. And what we do is make sure that the information that's being presented is being presented in the right way so that folks can ingest it, so that it's contextual to their needs as they're moving through an experience, and helping to understand what those needs are in the moment, not just what they are in total, but what they are as a user is performing a certain task, and how do we support that task through content and make sure that it's contextual and not overwhelming. And that's a lot more than just writing some copy.
Excellent. So a few things. Could you go one slide back?
Certainly.
And this is recorded, so I'll make a blog post also to expand on some of this. You'll get a copy of the deck as if you were attending this conference presentation in person. Anita joins us from Copenhagen, working at Mask, and she asked, how does content design integrate with your design system?
It's a good question. It's something that we're working actively on at the moment. We have several products in market, and because I think content design is fairly nascent at Mastercard as a discipline, we're only not even 4 years old. we're still working on creating a design system that is reusable and applicable for all of our products and services. And so that requires a lot of orchestration among all of our designers in Dublin, our designers in London, our designers in Australia, our designers in the UAE. So we're all kind of working together to try to align on what those elements are. So that's starting, and that's an iterative process that we're working on. And part of that has been for us to come together and align on what we have in market that we know is working, what we have that we know is legally approved. And that has been kind of put together and packaged up now as an internal resource, but it will be part of our overall pattern library that we're working on. So it's a part of the conversation. We're nowhere close to done with it, but it is something that we're starting to work to put together. And for each product that it has its own little design system, and the content is reflected in that because it's all kind of approved. But what we're trying to do is make sure that that can be lifted up to the organization as a resource for everyone to use.
All right. And then Bart from the Netherlands asked about the size of your content design team.
There are 5 of us. On my team, we work on the product side, and then we have a customer platform that has 2 content designers on it, and we have a team of around 70 technical writers. So we consider all of those to be our content SMEs and our friends in the war for good content.
All right. And then can you tell us a little bit about where it fits into the org chart compared to marketing, communications, or other things?
It's a good question, and I think it's different everywhere. You know, what I love about going to content conferences is that you get to discuss, hey, where do you sit? I think sitting in the user experience or customer experience organization is a really powerful place to be. That's where I sit at Mastercard. But as I said, some of my counterparts in other parts of the organization sit in different places and report to different people. And sometimes, to me, having leadership that understands deeply what user experience is, what it means, how important it is, when you're not trying to kind of sell in your position and your worth and your value every day can be really powerful. It's just something that I don't have to deal with as much as some other folks that I know at other organizations, for example. So it varies, but for me, I am in our product solutions, customer solutions organization, and I am part of a larger team which is focused on customer experience and design.
All right. So far, so good. Any other questions, reflections? Hillary, do you want to, can we hear your voice for a little bit, elaborate and perhaps reflect on this?
Sure. I just wanted to say great work. So that buy-in piece that you just mentioned, Melinda, that is essential to doing effective work. So congratulations on that, because if the content strategy team or the content design team is just doing the right thing sort of under the radar, it's really hard to get that traction and get your peers and colleagues to include you in the right way and at the right time, especially early enough, as you said. So yeah, I just wanted to say a giant thumbs up for that, because that's so important.
Yes, no, I agree. Any other comments? I was curious to hear about content ops. Just to be clear, the way I understood it, Melinda, is that you're describing content ops the way we see on this slide. You, I think, mentioned on the previous slide it was the delivery piece, and then you kind of expanded it with these bullets. That's content operations to you?
It's part of it. This is kind of a small piece. For us, a lot of the work that we have been doing around content ops has been about delivery. And delivery for us is largely localization and scaling. So, you know, as I said, I think where Mastercard is still building its muscle around product design, I think we're still pretty new at it, but we're really focused on it and really trying to make it happen. And some of this has been about learning how to use the existing tools that we have to deliver content at scale. And I don't know that anyone before I started at Mastercard had really been doing it well. I think it had been a pretty manual process that was driven by, like I said, a lack of tools. So what we have done since I started and what my team has been focused on is getting the tools that we need, first of all, and making sure that product understands how important those tools are and how much money we can save. When you introduce something and you say, hey, this is going to save you $150,000, everybody perks up their ears, right? So that's really helpful. But also where we can't bring in a tool, making sure that we have the resources to create our own tools. We have 2 patents pending now for tooling that we've created internally that will help us to pull content out of our designs, translate it, push it back into our designs, and then push it to code. So all of those things have created incredible efficiencies, and our focus on content ops from that perspective has really helped us to gain a lot of traction across the organization with product owners and developers who are seeing a lot of value in that in their own day-to-day work and really want to work more with us to help create our tooling and make sure that it is optimized and that it works as well as it can. So that has been actually really helpful for us to be a part of it. I know a lot of folks find it kind of boring, the content ops side of things, but the way that we've been tackling it has been really helpful for us as far as helping us to grow our influence within the organization.
Interesting. I was going to give it now over to our friend in Oslo. Torstein, are you there? So Torstein asked a question. He's with an insurance firm in Oslo.
Oh, okay.
Let's
Technical
see.
writers? Is that the question?
He asked about. Yeah, okay, you go, Torstein. I'll leave it to you.
Couple of questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
take it away.
So first, the technical writers, or you could say the larger writing community within your organization, how do you do that collaboration? And obviously I understand the perspective of content design is not copywriting, but still it's a part of it, and it's I guess it's important to keep the relationship with the other people in the organization who also writes on a professional level. So I was interested in that, and in addition, the sort of the link to your future plans for the design system. So would the technical writers, which I understood you have a lot of, be sort of a key audience or part of that community when you bring it to the design system as well? So would you be, because you would probably not consider doing this primarily for the 5 content designers, it's a sort of larger audience.
It is for a larger audience, but we do have, as I said, we have a lot of product teams that don't have any content folks. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to scale for our designers to support them, give them some tools internally, some training internally, as well as some resources so that they can pull things quickly. We do have a relationship with our technical writers. I have a monthly meeting with the woman who heads up that team. We go to conferences together. We all go to LavaCon every year, all of us. And we share a lot of conversations around tooling and a lot of our discovery, but our needs are very different. Our end customers' needs are very different. Our customers' needs are different. So we don't share style guides, for example. Like our technical team has a completely different approach to content than we do, but we do influence the structure of the content. We do have a lot of conversations around how to structure content for scannability, how to articulate content for folks with low literacy, non-native speakers, and making sure that we're optimizing our content for literally anyone who's going to come across it. And that's where a lot of my focus is with the technical writers, and that's what we talk a lot about, is how do we make sure that all of us are using plain language and staying on top of best practices for plain language, particularly with regard to accessibility, and making sure that we're leveraging that, because the plainer the language, the simpler the constructs that you use, the easier it is to translate And that is something, as I said before, that we struggle with, is being able to scale our content and to localize it. So making sure that we're talking about best practices from such a really granular level, which is, how are we articulating how are we putting together our structures? Are we all on the same page with this idea that we need to make it as accessible as we can? So those conversations have been actually pretty great across the board, and we've done a lot together to educate the organization as a whole around plain language. We have a training that we're working on now. We just did one for CX Week. We have another training coming up. There's a lot of appetite for that because everyone is asked to create content, right? And not everybody feels comfortable doing that or feels like they know the most about it. So we do find that there is a lot of curiosity around the organization as a whole around how do I do this better? And talking to our peers about, what are you seeing? What do you have a problem with? What do you want to learn more about has been really helpful. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we're at the last 2 minutes. Anita had a question but had to run. But since we're still recording, perhaps you can answer it still, Melinda. She's asking about having all deliverables in one place, like one source of truth where people can look at and find the right content.
Yeah, and I'm happy to discuss this with her another time too. We do. So that's part of the content ops piece that we've been kind of using tooling for. What we have done at the moment is to make Sketch our source of truth. And that's been really great for all of us because we can pull the content in and out really easily into Excel. We can make changes to it. We can make universal changes very quickly to the content there as long as it's structured well. And then push it back into Sketch and then push it from Sketch to code. So the way that we've been working with Sketch as the de facto CMS has been our single source of truth. And we're working now to optimize that and make it, something that is more easily shared among non-designers, because frankly, my team has all had to learn how to work inside Sketch, which has been really great, but we really want to take this to the next level in the next year and turn it into a homegrown CMS so that we can have preview capabilities and so people can make content changes live without having to push out and then pull back in.
All right. And I think that's a wrap. We're right on time. I know you have two more slides. If you could forward to those. I'm gonna just say, yeah, there was the last one right after the cat. There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you very much for doing it. I'll share the recording. You should already have Melinda's contact details, and do connect. Continue the conversation. I'll turn this into a blog post as well. And then I hope to meet many of you in person in a not too distant future again, or in our upcoming calls. Thank you, Melinda.
Great. And bye. Thank you. Here's my email.
Thank you. Bye.